The spot mode is a wonderful mode that's really designed to utilize features of placing things on the timeline at fixed locations. The spot mode can be very useful for sound design, for film and TV. It makes it a really easy job if you take good spotting notes to just locate sounds and drop them in their location. So spotting notes are these real basic outlines of clips and files that need to align somewhere on the timeline. These are designed for film and TV. So if you were shooting something for film, along the lines somewhere the director and the editing team would be taking notes to decide where certain clips are going to fall, what kind of sounds they want to use, and then the editor is basically going to work in the post to place these clips and get them into the timeline pretty effectively. Now, normally there's thousands of clips and files that have to go, so this is a real basic version of this. So if I look at this sync time, this is actually in time code because that's what they use for film. So at the very top, I'm going to switch to time code in my main counter, and that's going to get me to this view where I can actually see time code. And then what I'm going to do is if I go back to my spotting notes, I see, okay, well, this is the time that I'm going to try to lock in this rocket. So I'm going to copy paste it and go to my effects files. So these are my spotting effects files that I have as an example. I'm going to drop in the rocket sound. I'm just going to drag and drop and watch what happens in spotting mode. As soon as I drag and drop in Pro Tools, it's going to give me a dialog and it's going to say, where am I placing this? Where should it start? Where should it end? What's the sync point? And the sync point is actually a very interesting, cool, wonderful thing. In each of these clips that we have, we can actually establish that the sync point could be anywhere in the clip. So instead of having the clip start at a certain point, we could say align the sync point to a certain position. That's really great for things and sounds and clips that wind up to some sort of actual landing spot. So like, the sound of an airplane crashing, it kind of winds down to the actual explosion. So if we figure out what the sync point is of the explosion, we set that sync point in the clip, and then we can drag it in. For this instance, we don't have sync point set up, so I'm just going to copy paste that time that I had in there into this part of the window. And I don't know if I got it or not. And oops, of course it might not let me paste it. That's all we're going to do there anyway, is go to 10 and hit OK. And what you'll see is the clip's going to come in and be aligned to that starting position. Now this is a very long clip, and that's why it might have an end time specific to it. And then if we go look, all right, we're going to pull bricks into the 1508. So here's bricks, time aligned 1508. Kind of see how that works. As I drag it in, I just enter the time and hit OK. It's going to move bricks to that location. If we're following this, 2511, two of these, Other Voices and Alien Blubber, 2511 are both going to be synced to the same spot. So we'll start with this one and type in 2511. And the same thing for the Other Voices. And notice we could put these on the same locations on the timeline or as new tracks. So, there's a really good way to set this up in terms of post work. For now, I'm just going to move these to the separate tracks. And again, 2511. And I'm going to mute this so you can hear what this sounds like. Again, we're in spot mode, so let's take a listen and see where we ended up. Now, that's a pretty long clip for that rocket windup. There's a bunch of stuff. But if I were to add a sync point, it might be established that depending on what we want to do, the sync point could be set up at the height of that clip. And then in the clip itself, we can just add that. We can say identify sync point and establish a sync point right there at that position. And then if we're in spot, anytime we drag or move, it wants to give us a new location. So if we just are like, hey, let's move this, right? It's saying, spot. Now, if I go back to my spotting notes, I'm like, you know what? That one really that rocket should have been sync time at 10. So notice that's not what this is. Sync point's way off. So we're going to try to establish a sync point at 10. And now all of a sudden you see it shifted everything up. And that's what it should do. Essentially, spotting mode is a fantastic tool to allow us to maneuver and adjust and align. It's pretty brilliant, and it works very fluidly.